That would be a good topic to have for men is that, when our partners get anxious, it makes me anxious because I want to fix it. And then, there's a lot of times if I'm irritable, restless, and discontent, it triggers past trauma. I think it's about me. You know what I mean? Every time she's like, I think it's about me. And I go right from zero to
Knocking Doors Down, the podcast with those who have turned their darkest times and greatest adversities into their greatest advantages and being of service to others. My guest, Michael Molthan, also known as M2, host of the M2 The Rock Show, one of the fastest growing podcasts. And much like myself, he dives into topics of self-improvement, adversity, mental health, and more. Michael and I have a valuable conversation about how we both have improved our mental health. Here's my guest, M2, Michael Molthan. Michael Molthan, Mr. M2 himself, the host of the M2 Rock Show. Thank you for joining me on Knocking Doors Down.
Jason. It's so finally good to connect with you. We were just talking before we went on air of the cool connections of guests that I've had on the show, and our dear friend Higgy. Connected us a while back, and it finally happened. And very close friend of mine, Tony Hoffman.
Yes.
I'll put him out there. PH Wellness, right there. He has a treatment center out. You're in California, right?
Yeah. So Tony's I think it's about 6 hours south of me.
Yeah,
PH
I actually
Wellness.
toured his facility, and I don't endorse any facilities, or I don't do that except his. I toured it, and he's a dear friend of mine, and I see the program that he works, and I saw his passion for it. He runs it like a business, but what I saw was the money is the result of his passion, and he's the real deal. So if y'all aren't following him and listening to him, he's the real deal.
Yeah, and anybody that listens frequent knows how much of an impact he's been in my life in sobriety. The first
Yeah.
person that when I had a slip up, relapse, whatever you want to call it, picked up the phone. But we'll get into that in a second because I start my
Yeah.
conversations with gratitude because it's how I start my day. So, three
Ah.
things you're grateful for today.
That's a great question. So, one of the things I can't forget, I am grateful that the mental obsession of drugs and alcohol has been removed. There's other mental obsessions that are still there, but the great thing is I recognize it now. I thought it was normal, but that's one thing. I'm very grateful for my higher power. I don't put his name in my mouth a lot because I want to show the world who he is, but that is Jesus Christ. Not the church Jesus, not the free world, but my Jesus. And there's a lot of people's Jesus I don't want, but I am so grateful for him. And, I just got baptized about, let's just call it, 3 weeks ago, and something happened. It was something very powerful. It meant I took it very seriously. I mean, I even studied it before I, did it. I wanted to know what I was getting into because it's a major decision.
Yeah.
And and something happened, and it's been different ever since then. So, the other grateful thing, I'm really grateful for my fiance, Lee McGuire, who is, man, she's been my rock, no pun intended, but she has. I mean, she's the lady behind the scenes, doesn't want to but she is the one that, she tells me the things I need to hear. But it's the first relationship that I've ever been into where I felt heard.
Mhm.
We have healthy conflict. She's so smart, wicked creative. He's so creative, and is just a big part of M2 The Rock and the content. And so I'm super grateful for her. And I can go more than three, but that's to answer your question. Those are the three.
Well, on the second one, I got the chills because I know what you mean. And on
Hmm.
the third for sure too, the chills just kind of continued as I don't know about you. I didn't think that existed. Like having a good, healthy relationship with healthy conflict, with disagreements, with interdependency, you know, deep, just like setting goals. I didn't even,
Yeah,
I figured I
yeah,
gotta always wear the same facade I did that went right alongside my alcoholism.
yeah. And in the first part of a relationship, I was recognizing, um, just ingrained character defects, of lack of communication. I got this, don't worry about it. And the stuff like that. And through my sponsor um, and understanding, you know, hey, she's asking a question. She wants to know, and I'm not going to get in trouble because I have so much trauma from the past.
Right.
If I took a chance and got vulnerable at home and got transparent, I got in trouble and physical abuse would jump in. And so I was always confused. But it's gotten really good because that's not the response. And you know what's so great? We become closer. What an incredible concept.
Imagine that. And I
Yeah,
can
imagine
relate
that.
to what you're saying about, trauma. And I don't think people, maybe they're not fully conscious of it or don't understand how much you can carry because I went through a situation with the relationship that by the end of it, they could have me convinced that a spoon was a fork and a fork was a spoon. And so
I've
it
never
was,
heard that.
so it was like the situations of, well, I want you to be vulnerable. And then I would, and then later on it would be used as a weapon. And so for
I
me,
can, yes, yes.
yeah, that's been hard. I didn't so much have it in childhood. My dad was just kind of a yeller, and whereas my mom, if she yelled, you knew she meant it. It was rare,
Yeah.
and you better shape up. So it wasn't like it was too much from that. But boy, yeah, having a relationship, it's made it probably a pretty big challenge for my partner, and she's very, very patient.
That's really good, and so is mine. And but it's actually in my men's Bible study the other morning. I go every Tuesday morning. That's a lie. I try to go every Tuesday morning, but I make a lot of them. But we kind of talk about the topic of one of the gentlemen said, you know, pray for my wife. She's just really, really anxious. She's really struggling with anxiety. And, you know, and I chimed in and I said, that would be a good topic to have for men is that, when our partners get anxious, we do because when Lee, if I see her getting anxious, it makes me anxious because I want to fix it. You know what I mean? And then, there's a lot of times if I'm irritable, restless, and discontent, um, it triggers past trauma because she can just be anxious over, I think it's about me. You know what I mean? Every time she's like, I think it's about me. And I go right from 0 to 100 like that, right? Because of fear. And I'll immediately go in my head, I'm going to be abandoned.
Hmm.
I'm going to be abandoned. And that trauma comes up. It's gotten a lot better because all she's asking for me is to listen to her. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or let her live in it. And when she says that, what I can relate. And when I get anxious, here's what I do. This is what's worked for me. But the main thing is tell your partner, I can relate. I
Mm.
totally get it. And then also I've shared with her, say, I'm sorry if I get, when you get anxious, I get anxious. And I hate this. Well, you're just codependent. Oh, there's healthy codependent. No, I love the girl. I mean, I'm the man in the house. I mean, I want to fix it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, and so but that's the great thing about, Jason, recovery is that I recognize these things now. And
Hmm.
I see them as opportunities that I get to live. And my whole passion and mission is to help people see life through God's perspective and not the world or the cultures,
Hmm.
and to take these moments and see it through. And then I get gratitude. Talk about, gratitude list. I'm like, man, I'm so grateful that I'm handling things differently. Not but as a result of God, you
Yeah.
know, um, I'm handling things differently than I used to.
Hmm.
And sometimes I relapse. Sometimes when she gets anxious, I get anxious, like and I get angry and all that stuff. But then I pause, and sometimes I have to make an amends, and I say, listen, I was being selfish. You know, um, Now's not the time to be anxious. It's n- I don't have that on my calendar right now. Okay, and so, but used to I would just bail and leave and go drink.
Yeah.
So, great,
Well,
great. That's a great topic.
well, and I think it's that challenge. I mean, let me get your perspective. I think it's that challenge of I still fight. It's either perfect or forget it. I already know it's not going to be able to be perfect, so why put the effort? I could put my effort in the perfect basket. And I've had to do a lot of work in that area of accepting I don't get to predict outcomes. I get to predict my attitude and my effort. And there's certain things I do have a control. The rest of it, I leave in God's hands because God keeps giving me just, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I think we talked about this
Yeah, we
before
talked about
we,
that.
yeah, hit
Yeah.
record. And
I put that in my witchcraft category. The coincidence.
the coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I put that in the witchcraft. That's witchcraft.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that's good. I'm gonna borrow that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have it.
Knocking Doors Down by Carlos Vieira. Now available wherever you get audiobooks.
I wasn't done partying, and I didn't want the binge to end. I think I knew that when I finally got home, I'd have to face what I had done, and I wasn't ready to do that. Being responsible for my actions wasn't something I was looking forward to. I had abandoned my wife and baby, my family, and my business. I wanted to avoid the shame of returning to what I had left behind. Even though I was not yet going home, I wasn't sure I had enough resources to continue the binge.
Click the link in the podcast description to find out more.
The We're Out of Time podcast with Richard Tate, musician and social media influencer Andrea Russett,
How long you got?
As of today, 2 weeks.
model and Instagram sensation Lacey K. Summers,
You've never done a drug or a drink, have you?
No.
the star of Netflix Tall Girl Ava Michelle.
The next morning, I found him and
You found out?
I did find him.
The We're Out of Time podcast with the man who revolutionized addiction treatment, Richard Tate. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. We'reOutOfTime.com, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
I try to remain far more conscious, just really like actually having a sense of consciousness, being able to reflect. I did so much subconscious living. Like the story could play out so quick. I got a flat tire, I could go buy a new car, just crash this one, or hey, the easiest thing, just go have another drink,
Yeah,
and so it's kind of that quicker catching of things for me that I've noticed growth. Like it was weird. I had it twice in a matter of about 2 or 3 days. Two people go, well, thank you for that. Wow, you have such a wonderful emotional maturity. I'm like, okay, something I never thought I would hear.
Well, you're spiritually grounded, I mean, that's when we're spiritually fit, people see it.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
When I'm not spiritually fit, people see it. And a radical example of that, where I was putting chemicals in my body, it was very visible that I wasn't spiritually fit, and then God designed us spirit, mind, body, that order. Okay. And when the spirit feeds the mind and the mind feeds the body, man, we look good. That's when they say, man, Jason, when you walk in a room, there's just a presence about you. I mean, you just look great, because that's when the spirit, mind, and body, are in order. If that gets out of order, there's chaos, anxiety, depression, paranoia, discomfort, and that's where we hit that reset button. I'm not a King James. I talk to God all day long, but I'm not a King James version ritual prayer guy.
Sure.
It's a relationship, and I just talk to God like I'm talking to you. Hey, God, I'm tripping right now. I'm tripping. I need to hit the reset button, or I
Yeah.
call someone,
Yeah.
and do that, which I'm finally good at. And that's the hardest thing to do, is to call another man and say, I'm in fear,
Mm,
I'm in fear, and I've got a great mentor, that helps me all the time. And he always talks about, he just goes right back to the basics, don't let your thoughts become your actions.
yeah.
That's simple. What are you grateful for?
Yeah.
You want to go back to prison?
Oh.
No, you know what I mean? So it's so those
Yeah,
are the
handcuffs
reset button.
suck.
Yeah.
They're the worst, man. Never
Yeah.
again.
Mhm.
But you're right. In that, or in my life, I've seen that what you're saying is aligns with me, in that, I've
But
got
Jason, this is everybody.
Sure.
And that's what I found out, because that's why I drank and I did drugs, is because I wanted to feel like everybody around me looked.
Right. I
I didn't
was,
think other people felt that way.
yeah, no, I
Um,
compared my insides to everybody's outsides.
right. And so as I started seeing life through God's perspective on this journey, and what I do today, 7 days a week, and I do a lot of alone time. People don't, I'm an introvert, but when I'm on stage and all this stuff, I just speak from the spirit, right? Same way, yeah. And but it's like everyone's an addict. I
Mhm.
mean, if you're breathing oxygen, everyone is an addict. And when we think of addiction, okay, we immediately go to drug addicts and alcoholics, and that's where the stigma is at. All right. And so we just put them over here that they're just bad, sick people, right? And the people that put us over here that were bad, sick people, what the real reality is they don't want to deal with us because they actually see their character defects live on stage.
Yeah.
What we do that bothers them, the reason why it bothers them is because they do it. So
Yeah.
they actually reach out to other worldly resources to change the way they feel, right? And so I came up with the definition. What is addiction? And addiction is simply this: it's the street name for spiritual stronghold. That's what
Mm,
it is.
mm,
And I can break it down even further. Addiction is this: it's a person, it's a place, it's a thing. And here's the scary one, Jason, or a thought that has become my source. It's become my source. All right.
yes.
Because I'm looking for these visible things to try to fix my invisible problems.
Yeah.
Okay. And I still do it today, but I recognize it. And
Yeah.
sometimes I recognize it and I still do it. It's the insanity. It's like, it's the little things like, I don't need to buy this, or, but I'm trying to change the way I feel. And, you said something before we were on the show. You said, man, this show is just wide open. You can cuss and all this stuff. And one thing that has changed throughout my sobriety is my language.
Mm,
It's cleaned up. And what I believe, this is me. I have nothing against people just getting down. I have nothing against people who drink. I have nothing against any of that, right? It's a luxury I don't have.
yeah.
And but but if I catch myself cussing here at home, and Leo called me out on it, if I'm cussing, I'm in relapse behavior,
Hmm.
because I'm trying to change the way I feel. I'm using that language. I'm literally trying to change the way I feel. And so it's that I recognize that today. So that's how detailed I am in my walk. It's been a very, we never have tough days or tough years. Man, it's been a bad year. No, I've just missed out on all the opportunities. Okay.
Yes,
I just
sir.
turned my back to all these opportunities that for my faith to grow and to see life through God's perspective. Right.
Right.
And I've had those tough moments where sometimes I'm just comfortable being angry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my
Yes.
old behaviors. I just get comfortable there. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And I'll be at home, and and at the house, and I'll drop an F bomb or something like that, and Leo go, and I share with when we very first started, going out, that, I was just this, I was on the beam, baby, and fear came in the relationship because uh triggering each other.
Mhm.
Okay. She wasn't doing anything to me, but I was realizing that she was triggering me with things that would trigger me from my childhood. Right. And and then she goes, why you just cussed? It just blew her away. And I said, well, who cares? You don't have to be perfect. I was fighting back instead of saying, well, inside, then I get mad because she's right. Okay. I got checked, but she was right. But I'm in fear. I'm in
Yeah.
fear, and so I recognize these red flags in my life. Taking my own inventories instead of yours.
Yeah. And fear is such a tough one. And let me get your take on this too, is that, I've heard people, oh, steer away from so and so, their drama, and you'll just see that their mindset is sick. And when I've sat and being able to talk through it, somebody that will talk through these things and go by the end, like, what are you afraid of? What do you mean? What am I afraid of? Like all these things you're putting out, they're all external stuff that you're
Yeah.
wishing you could control so that what you have going on inside would dissipate.
Yeah.
So I know what
Yeah.
you mean, but I mean, what are some of the tools that help you through those situations where you go, is this an irrational fear? Is this a subconscious fear?
Well, first of all, if I'm questioning it, I'm not I'm not going to the right solution. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I actually speak on this. I speak on
Okay.
fear, and I'll actually give you I'll lay out a true story of how I break this down. Fear, and you've probably heard this, but if you use it as an acronym, fear is it's false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not real, but fear is once again is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for my faith to grow, okay, or to go to prison. That's simple. Go back to prison. So when I'm in fear, I have the opportunity to do something with it. Okay. If I don't do anything with that feeling of fear, it turns into a resentment. Okay. If I don't do anything with resentment, then it turns into anger. If I don't do anything with that, it turns into rage. And if I don't do anything with that, it turns into isolation. And if I don't do anything with that, then it turns into paranoia. Okay. And the paranoia is where the fear comes alive and it starts speaking to me in my own voice. Okay. The movie will be perfect playing in my head and the ending and, dead bodies everywhere. And this is a funny story. Back to Tony Hoffman. Okay. Because we actually were cracking up over this. All right. So I texted him. All right. And he didn't respond. Okay. And I'm like, Hoff usually always responds. I know he's speaking a lot and all that stuff, and I get that, but I knew where he's at. I just like talked to him, and I texted him. So I had expectations that he was going to respond back immediately. He didn't respond back. I didn't think anything of it. Then I started thinking. I said, "Man, Hoff, something else bothered me." So I go back. Hoff didn't respond to me. Okay, so I kind of get a resentment, right? In my head. And then it kind of turns into a little anger and then a little rage and then isolation, man. He texts me back. I ain't texting him back. Right. And then I get into paranoia where it's like, man, did I do something? He doesn't like me anymore. Here's a guy I really like. And because my circle's so small, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, what did I do something? And all this. And I get into that. And the next day, he texts me first thing in the morning, goes, "Hey, bro, I love you. I'm sorry." And I was on a plane. So he couldn't get my text, couldn't get my text. Right. But I got this thing built up in my head, So he calls me and I said, "Man, I got 4 needles in my arm because you didn't text me back." I mean, we were laughing because he gets it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's what we do. We go from there to there. So what is the solution to fear?
Have you dug into the archives of past Knocking Doors Down podcast episodes? The Knocking Doors Down podcast archive is available to you for free. Check it out. Here's a snippet from when Charlie Sheen was on the podcast.
I think shame and people pleasing are completely interwoven.
Absolutely. I agree 100% because I know I greatly struggled with that. Still do at times.
Right. And what is shame really? It's us writing a story about how someone's going to interpret or judge us with us having no idea what the outcome of the next moment is.
This episode and so many more in the Knocking Doors Down archive. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumb up, leave a comment, and share with somebody else that you know will get value out of the Knocking Doors Down podcast.
So what is the solution to fear? And I was speaking on this at a place, and there was a gentleman in the front who doesn't talk. He had I don't like to say the word mental problems. It's just who he was.
Sure.
Okay. He didn't talk, never talked. And I'm going around and said, what is the solution to fear? And everybody's answering these questions and it's wrong. They're good answers. It's the wrong answer. Okay. They say prayer. That's a great answer. Yes, pray. Um, and this guy out of nowhere, he just goes, talk about it.
Mm.
And that is the solution to fear. When I get into fear and I talk about it with another man, and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Um, I usually talk myself in a circle. Okay. But they talk me off the ledge and say, you're in the future alone in your head.
Mm.
Okay. So let's go to the future together. And so when I go to the future together with a healthy mentor, a healthy man, with you or Hoff, and I go in the future together, I get the feeling of hope.
Yeah, yeah,
If I go in the future alone in my head, I get anxious.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so immediately I feel better, after I talk to him. I go, dude, I was tripping.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, because we're not there yet. It's like talking to Tony about, speaking in 2026. I was like, bro, it's 2024. You way out there. You know what I mean? You're right. So stuff like that.
Yeah.
But everybody does that, not
Oh,
just
yeah.
drug addicts and alcoholics.
Yeah, future tripping is a great anxiety driver. I had a little bit. I don't know about you. It's funny. I never realized I had anxiety till I got sober. I was like, "Oh, that's what that thing was all along." But I had it this morning, just thinking about my day. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, I got to produce all this content. I've got two recordings. I'm meeting with a gentleman who reached out and just wants to thank me for how much the podcast has helped him." And I had all these stories built up in my head about how it was going to be, how I was going to feel, how I was going to be overwhelmed. By the time I talk to you, because we're recording later in the day, that I'm not going to have any energy or whatever it is. And it's like, what, what are you doing, man?
Dude,
What's the
20 minutes.
story?
I've been pinned wide open all day. Same stuff. Okay. Our editing software says update payment, and I'm trying to put another card number in there, and it's not taking it. There's something wrong with their system. It's not taking it. And I got to get content out, for a client, that I'm emceeing an event for on Monday. You know what I mean? And I'm tripping. So guess what I did? I did what I was taught. I just called him, said, this is what's going on. I can't make my, he says, no problem. The old me, I would have lied. I would have lied and said the internet's cut off. A truck ran into a telephone pole out in the street and knocked all the internet out, and I can't do it. But I just did that. And then 20 minutes before we were going there, literally the thought in my head came saying, man, I should text Jason, see if I can reschedule.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I get
Mhm.
that. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna go do this. And I'm so glad, always glad to do it, because man, I feel great because I'm in the now.
Yeah.
I'm in the now. I'm
Yeah.
in the present
Yeah. Well, and I
and
love
helping
that.
someone else, hopefully.
Yes, for sure. Well, and
Yeah.
I think that the funny thing I can relate about making that call for the payment, be like, hey, what are you guys doing wrong? Because I can't get my payment through to make this. You need to fix your problem.
Right. Right.
That would have been
It,
me.
oh, I've come a long way because, I am. I'm so good on the phone now. I'm really,
Yeah.
because those are those opportunities where I get to be a witness for Christ without even saying his name.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they're just doing their job, and and she says there's just something wrong with our system, and we're running the card, and I got the money. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I even called the bank, but it's all this time theft. You know what I mean? It's like, man. But
Yeah.
guess what? It happened the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah. That reminded me of a story, and I don't remember if I've told it here, but this was one of those opportunities. I forget what it was, internet or something like that. And I call and I get a gentleman, and he was in India, and he says his name is Jeff. And I was a dick. This is how much of a dick I was. There's no other words to use for that. And I go, really? Is that really your name? And he goes, yes, sir. And then I go, what kind of an ass says that to a human being they've never met? And so he's sitting there helping me. And I said, hey, Jeff, I'd really like to apologize. That was very rude of me. Um, what time is it there? And he goes, oh, it was like 3 a.m. And I go, oh my goodness, I used to work those graveyards. That's must be tough. And he goes, yeah, but I have two kids and a lovely wife at home, and I'm doing what I need to for them. And then we ended up having a great conversation that he solved my problem in about 2 seconds, but I got 20 minutes of this person's time. And
Yeah.
all it took was to not be a jerk. And to
And what was so beautiful, what you said there, and I want everybody to to see what Jason just did. That's recovery because he immediately recognized the role that you played in your resentment. So you had a resentment. That means you played a role in it. Okay. And you immediately recognized the role that you played in it. And the question is, do you owe this person amends? And yes. So you did it within maybe 2 minutes, you know? And that guy, there's no telling what you did for that guy.
Yeah.
There's no telling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean directly never, but it sure
yeah.
hopefully those things, and I know when I'm treated that way of somebody making an apology, that it's like it makes me better in that moment, and I get to carry that to my direct interactions and contacts and attitude forward. It's contagious.
Yes. But you making the amends was for you, right?
Yes.
And you felt better.
Yes.
You felt better. You didn't go to bed that night going, I'll never be able to talk to that guy. God, I was a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'll drink and do drugs over that again, you
Oh
know?
yes. Oh
But you
yes.
recognize the old behavior. That's beautiful. Those are the great stories I like to hear, on shows like this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's
Well,
that's beautiful.
and you said something that about the present moment too, because I wouldn't have gotten that other opportunity. I mean, what am I going to do? Call the big internet company and go, I need you to make sure you get me this guy here because I need to apologize. They're going to be like,
I'm Jason LaChance.
yeah, they're gonna be like, sir, what? Like, are you nuts? Well, yes, I am, but you don't understand like how much is right. Because you're right. That is the stuff that I would have gone and drank over because it
Right.
would have connected right back to the story I had for myself about myself that I reinforced that, oh yeah, see, you're just a horrible human being and you don't deserve
Yeah.
any better.
And then it brings up other unresolved resentments. And now we're mad at a guy that's 8,000 miles away. Then we get mad at our mom and dad again. We get mad at the people who did us wrong that we never processed these resentments. And then we're off to the races.
Yeah.
And these are like, why do I relapse all the time? Because there's unresolved resentments.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you know, you know, there's 12-step programs that address that. There's biblical principles that address that. But the most powerful thing is working, and I'm a big believer that men work with men and women work with women, but work with another man, who has experience, that he's been released from his strongholds, okay, and recognize it to have these healthy conversations. And it's like, Jason, you don't know what that guy you were talking to was going through.
Mhm.
You have no idea. He was just doing his job. He took your phone call and said, "How can I help you?"
Yeah.
My name is Chad. No, it's not.
Yeah.
And then it goes down to what's the real problem? What was the real problem? You were in
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah. Well, and I will say the other thought too, because I can remember it was I was actually kind of mad for him as if he wasn't allowed to use his real name, but I didn't ask him that in a nice way. I was rude. I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're just lying to me." You know what I'm saying? My language and attitude was, "Oh, you're lying to me." And then when I
Right.
gave it a bit of a thought after, he said, "Yeah, that's my real name." I was like, "Why were you mad?" Oh, because I hate that for someone like if you and what again a jerk mentality of well, you're from India. There's no way your name could be Jeff. So you got this big corporation that's making you use the name Jeff instead of fill in blank. Like, what is and it was just that quick, Michael. It was just that
It's
quick.
control. You're trying to
Yeah.
run the show.
Yeah. I'm trying to get after the evil corporation that can't make my internet work, that I pay them the $95 a month and they promise high speed. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
I'm
It's an eight
grinding.
minute phone. It's an 8-minute phone call that turned into an hour-long phone call, and now you're calling someone to bond you out of jail.
What happened to LaChance? Oh, he went down to the big internet store and bashed in the window because they told some guy to use the name Jeff. Like, what kind of a story would I attach to this? It's stupid.
That's so funny. And we
Oh,
laugh about that, and I laugh with you. And that's the great thing. about working together and being in solution. I'm laughing because I can relate. You
Right.
know, you know, I do this because I've done it. You know what I mean? And that's so great. And that's a safe environment. And
Uh,
that's what's so cool.
yeah. Well, I know you've had a lot of people reach out to you over the years and the work, I mean, just that you're doing. And I have a deep admiration. And again, no coincidences. We're having this conversation because this is when we were meant to have it. And
Mhm.
I'm having more of that come across me. And I had someone, with this situation. Oh, I relapsed and trying to sit and talk with them. Well, but you called me and I went through the same thing. And, Tony was like, hey, man, it's not a relapse. It's a slip up. Whereas somebody else, oh, man, you totally relapsed. And,
Mhm.
how do you kind of help someone around just the language of it? There's kind of
Yeah.
a dogma to it sometimes. And I'm not knocking 12-step
Yeah.
programs that saved my life. I dug in really hard when I took my sobriety serious, but like, how do you help maybe if somebody comes to you in that situation?
Well, I am I'm not, how do I word this? I don't care about sobriety dates. Okay. I have my date. I've got some time. You know what I mean? Um, but the date that I could tattoo on my body that can never be taken off, that can never change is July 7th, 2017. That's when Christ came into my life.
Hmm.
That's when I did step three. That's when I made a decision to turn my will and life over to the care of God as I understand him, a personal relationship. I can tattoo that on me and no one can take that off. Okay. A sobriety date, if I tattoo it, I've got cover ups of all different sobriety dates. Okay. And, mine's 2017, and so it is, but I always say this: I haven't been sober for over 7 years. Okay. I've abstained, but I haven't been sober because there are days where I'm wheels off.
Hmm.
I'm wheels off. I recognize it, but I'm not sober. I'm not walking in the spirit. I'm walking in me, you know. And I tell people, that do that, I said, come on, man. Did you drink this morning? We've been on the phone for 15 minutes. Have you had a drink in 15 minutes? They go, no, that's all that matters. Have you had a drug in the last 15 minutes? No, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. It's and celebrations and milestones and people celebrating these things. I love it. I think it's great. Congratulations. I mean, I applaud and all that. I used to do it. I used to do it because those were my most viral posts. Those
Right.
were my most engaging posts. Great job, way to go. And I've had all the applause I can handle, but so I don't do it anymore because I don't want that pressure on it. So when they call me, I do this. And I always say this, and I learned this by myself, seeing it through God's perspective. I said, let me ask you something. Actually, I'll put him out there. Higgy, you
Hmm.
know, Higgy, we talk and everything like that. Um, and, he's so transparent with me and he helps me, but not talking about Higgy, but another person, if they call me and I'll say this, let me ask you something. And there is a right answer. No one's ever gotten it right. Not one person. And I go, why do you drink? Why do you do drugs? Well, because I'm anxious. Wrong answer.
Hmm.
I'm depressed. Wrong answer. Because my wife. Wrong answer. Uh, just to relax. Wrong answer. And it's wrong answer. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. And I said, be patient with me because you're going to get frustrated. Okay. And then they finally just go, I don't know. What'd you say? I don't know. That's the right answer. That's step one. That is honesty. And when I said that, when I got my 27th mugshot, okay, and I literally said it to myself, and I said, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Hmm.
I don't know. And I surrendered. Okay. Now I got arrested on May 29th, 2017. I didn't have my miraculous, bright light moment until July 7th, 2017. All right. And it was a process, but during that process from May 29, 2017, and you've heard the story and seen the I Am Second film and all that, I started reading to inmates who couldn't read and write. And because they asked me to, and I did it, and I started understanding that I was doing easy time. I wasn't thinking about the outside world. I wasn't thinking about what people are saying about me. I wasn't thinking about what people are thinking about me. The fear and anxiety and paranoia calmed down. And I'm like, what's happening here? And the reason why is because for the first time, I was serving someone else, expecting nothing in return.
Mm.
And it put me in the safest place in the world. And that's right here, right now. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I do this. That's why I love being on shows and doing shows and interviewing people, because I love the high and the feeling of being in the present.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the show's over after this, there's no, you know, I don't have any resentments right now, but the day's not over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is what I do, and that's what my judge told me. You know, when I got miraculously released from prison and traveled over 300 miles to turn myself in, and she literally said, "Go pay it forward," and that's what I'm doing 7 years today. You know, later, and but that's what it is. If you're depressed, depression, I hear it all the time. Okay, depression, depression, depression. Now, I'm not discounting real mental health challenges, right? And where doctors have to be involved to get stable, but there still has to be a spiritual program in place. So the medication, remember, person, place, thing, or thought becomes my source. All right. So the medication is not my source.
Mm-hmm.
If the medication is my source, I'm going to stay depressed.
Yeah.
So what is the solution to depression? Serve. What is the solution to anxiety? Serve. Misery, serve. Grieving, serve. Okay. All these things, angry, go serve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it can be as simple as this. And I used to think go serve, like go to the Salvation Army or go to a homeless shelter. That's all great. That's what would come to my mind. But I didn't realize that, and I'll start doing it with you. Okay. But every once in a while, you will get a text from me saying, "Hey, man, I'm just thinking about you. Have a good day." I'm not asking you a question, not expecting your return. But when you get those texts from me, is because that's my reset button. Because after I do 5 texts, I feel better.
Mm.
It's just an exercise I taught myself. I text 5 people, and say that, or compliment someone. Just walk by them and say, "Hey, man, nice shoes."
Yeah.
If you're a man, say it to a man. Okay.
Yep.
You look at a man and say, "Man, I like those shoes." He'll look down at his shoes and he'll look down at them again and he's going like, "Man, I like my shoes." Right. Because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Those are those little things that start working the dopamine. It stimulates the Holy Spirit and it gets us in the now and the depression. When I'm depressed, you know what the common denominator is 100% of the time? I'm thinking about me. 100% of the time. That's the common denominator. And when I get depressed, sometimes I just like being depressed. I just sit there. I just want to be depressed.
Oh yeah.
And then I get more depressed because I know what the solution is. And so I will literally get my phone and text 5 people,
Yeah.
and it just moves. And Tony Hoffman says it's a great thing. I actually did the same thing. Being locked, I was so depressed that the day I finally woke up and I just made my bed.
Yep. Yeah.
I just made my bed. And when he shares that's his tagline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I made my bed the first time, and when I very first met him and I heard him say that, I'm like, bro, but he knows it's real because you see inmates do that. When they finally make their bed, right?
Yep.
Start getting some, like your shirt said, they start getting some hope.
Yep. And I was on a panel at a conference here, probably, I don't know, it was a month ago, a little over a month. And I don't even remember what the question was, but I do remember my answer. And I went, well, it's diet and exercise. And they're like, oh, so eating good and getting some physical activity. I went, no, everything. And this is the way I had to put it. I was like, If you read crap, eat crap, see crap, talk crap, think crap, hang out with
Uh,
crap, your
come on.
life is going to be crap. It is
Come
diet and
on.
exercise. So if you are not
Mhm.
working spiritual principles, taking those in, yes, the healthy food, yes, the movement, your interactions, who it
It's
is.
all good.
Like you said, I love sending texts to people just because, just telling them I'm thinking of them. And then it's like, are you okay? Did you need something? It's like, no, that was just thinking of you. It throws people off at first, but
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to do. And thank you for that
And
reminder. I've not done that in a while, and I need
I
to.
do that. I do that. So if you're literally just, you're in the office or working or driving, and no texting driving, but voice text or something like that. But we all do it. We go back and it'll pop up like, oh man, I haven't thought about that person in a long time. I haven't talked to him in like 3 or 4 weeks. Just text him.
Yeah.
Just text him. I've had a lot of men tell me, man, I'm so glad you texted me because I was in a bad spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was in a bad, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
It was like, man, I was in my head, and just getting that text from you, it just, I snapped out of it, and it's really cool. And if you try this exercise, remember, expectations lead to resentments. Okay. Every time. So don't have expectations when you text them, and 3 days later they haven't responded back going, he didn't text me back. I'm not texting him back again. No, it was for me.
Yeah.
It was my exercise.
It's funny when you brought up the complimenting a guy on his shoes. And I believe you know Dr. Rob Kelly, right?
That's where I got it from. So
Yep,
Dr. Rob
me
Kelly's
too.
he's my therapist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he gave me
Yeah.
that challenge. I think I was
That
just over after the slip up, relapse, whatever you want to call it, just over a year. And I just reached out and I was struggling. He goes, here's what I want you to do. When you're out, you're going to compliment 10 men on their shoes and you're going to get
sneakers. He says the
yeah,
word sneakers.
sneakers.
Nice sneakers.
Yeah. And you're going to get an exchange of dopamine there and you're going to watch how you change their life. And it was the first as a young man. He had on some cool old Jordans with the patent leather, which is one of my favorite ones. I was like, hey, man, I really dig those shoes. I had the original run of those when I played my senior year of high school basketball, man. Way to kick it old school. This young guy who probably has never had an adult say anything, he looked down, looked at him, looked up, and was just like, thanks, bro. And his head,
Yeah.
it went from slumping shoulders to his shoulders came back as he walked away. And I was like, son of
Serving.
a Dr. Rob, you're right.
So a great story about Dr. Kelly. When we went through a 9 month deal on writing my book, our memoir that we're editing, and it'll be out, mid 2025. And I was going back into the past and reliving childhood sexual abuse, the trauma and the physical trauma and the stuff that I was reliving. And it was hard. It was real hard. But I didn't get any resentments. I didn't get any anger. And I didn't know what was happening. And that's when Lee started recognizing. That's when I started cussing. I was cussing, and I was tripping. And she's like, "Man, something is wrong." And Dr. Kelly's assistant reached out and said, "Hey, Dr. Kelly wants to be on your show." And he said that he'd been following me ever since we started, and he came on the show, and I just really loved the interviewing him. And I was like, man, I was doing this and all that stuff. We were talking about trauma and all that. And a long time ago, my sponsor said something very powerful. He says, man, the 12 steps are great. Okay. We worked through them. You did outstanding, but the 12 steps don't help with everything. There's trauma. There is medical that needs to be, sometimes enforced with people. And the and so after it, we stayed on after the show, and I shared with him what I just shared with you. I said, man, I'm struggling bad. Okay. I don't know what's wrong. And literally Lee and I got in the car the next day and drove down, south in Texas here to San Antonio, and spent a week with him. And he's been my therapist, for over a year, and he's changed my life. I mean, he has changed my life, and with breathing techniques. I used to hear people these breathing techniques, and I ain't doing this monk stuff. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But but he educated me, and he's powerful. And I'll promote this. We're about to start a monthly show. It's the M2 and the Doc show, where he's going to be on the show, and yeah, he's great. So yes, so therapy, a therapist is powerful,
Yes.
and I think he's the best because it's really worked for me.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it was just a real understanding of when he told me, you can change the way you think. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I can, whatever, something trivial. And he's like, no, 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 no. I'm talking about actually changing the way you think. And this is neuroplasticity. This is how the brain, and I'm a very curious person. That's one thing.
Me
And
too.
it's come back. Thank goodness. I am so curious. And it's like, okay, please explain more. It was, try brushing your teeth with your left hand instead of your right hand, just doing little things different. And the more I went on with it, breath work, all these things, I'm like, oh man, dang. It's like wonderful to meet people that are right. Like I love meeting
Yeah.
people that know more than I do, Mentors, we need them.
Yeah.
We need them.
Yeah. And it makes sense. And, he's taught me about the brain. I love studying the science of the brain and, spirit, mind, and body. Right. And, and this, I never knew what the subconscious meant and the conscience meant. And, the subconscious is always trying to take over. So how do we stimulate the conscious brain? And that's oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
That's simple. And it's breathing. And my whole life, I always hold my breath. I caught myself today doing it. I get dialed in and I'm working. I don't breathe.
Same.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never met anybody else who said that.
Yeah. When I get locked in, like hyper focus, I struggle with it every day. But as a result of working with Dr. Kelly, I recognize it now. Like I just did that and that felt so good. You know what I mean? And but he's made me real smart because I steal stuff from him and help my people with it. And they go, "Man, you're awesome." And like I said, I'm just giving what was given to me.
Same. Same.
Yeah.
Well, you got a lot happening. Of course, the M2 Rock Show. We'll have that link in the podcast description. You got not one but two books coming out, right?
I do. I do. We're working on the memoir with it's called 300 Miles. That was my journey, once I got released. And we're in editing. We had it one way and we're restructuring it to a story. We're actually in conversations with two groups that want to take on the book and do a film and a documentary on the story. Actually, we had that with one of the conversations we had today. Lee's champion, that stuff. That's her world. My fiance is former Miss Oklahoma, third runner-up Miss America, and she had her own TV talk show. And so I was like, go, take it and run, but that's all going to happen. We don't know the date. And then we are scheduling our 2025, speaking tour, and the We Are All Addicts tour. Where we speak on that, and it's educating everyone. It's educating everyone and helping remove the stigma. For people. I don't market this or promote it. I do life coaching for men only, and the max capacity I can take is 5 men, and so I do that. And then good news is, so we just are signing with a new studio that we're taking the show into, actually a TV studio, 6-camera shot. It's actually the same studio that they filmed the I Am Second films in here in Dallas. Yeah. So if you saw my I Am Second film, we're in the white chair. That's the studio that we're going to be doing the show in. And so we've already got a list of A-list celebrities, influencers, and stuff like that. And the concept is going to be inspirational stories from inspirational people. You know what I mean? Because I don't want my platform has never been meant to be faith-based addiction recovery. It's self-improvement, and it's just not just that. Here's the deal. God isn't interested in influencers and celebrities. He cared less. He wants servants. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so everyone that comes on. It's going to be, influencers and have great content, great stories, and where everybody's like, oh man, that was really cool,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
provide that hope. So that is looking at probably launching in December. So that'd
Right
be
on.
cool. Yeah.
I'm proud of you for being a vessel.
Yeah. And it's 7 years now. Thank you. It's been 7 years. I literally just presented my business plan like 2 months ago. Actually, I was told to simplify it, so I haven't presented it yet. To
Yeah.
a group of men mentors here in Dallas, and I'm a businessman.
Right.
I had a luxury home building company for 20 years, but this whole new life, um, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's walking with God and doing what we do. It's
Yeah.
hard. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I want to try to live life as I want to, I still feel like, I want to be that man, how the world or the culture defines a man. But
Yeah.
a true man, okay, a true kingdom man, okay, is the way God defines a man,
Yeah.
not the world or culture.
Yeah.
And
And
that's hard.
it is because it's still one of my, we're going to get to some random questions here in just a second, but
Sure.
it, thank you for bringing that up because it's one of my biggest struggles. I've talked with Cassandra, my girlfriend, about this, other gentlemen. Like I, I feel something within, but then I question, is it ego in what I'm doing? And I really struggle with that because my fear is, ooh, this thing that's wanting to be, I don't know, more boisterous, I mean, I went to acting school. I did all these things, like I am a performer by heart, but yet I'm an introvert. I don't know, much like yourself, like, let me get
Yeah.
on the stage, then leave me alone, And
Right.
I,
I want to save everybody's life, but I don't want to hang out with anybody.
right. Exactly. And so I've really had for a good year at least this big conflict about that. Of like, is this God, when I'm in prayer or having a conversation with God, I'm not hearing like, yeah, no, do that, but I'm also not hearing don't do that. And because my fear is that if it's ego, I know where that leads me. That leads me right back out to a bar, chasing women
Right.
or something stupid. So
Right.
it's
The
that's a real
visible
big,
things.
yeah, it's a real big struggle for me around those two things.
So So you said something about you said the F word, I think 4 times. My fear, my fear, my
Ah,
fear. You say? So earlier we were talking, what is the solution to fear? We talk about it.
right.
Okay. And then the noise shuts down, like, should I do this or should I do that? So, and the reason why I recognize what you're doing is because I do it.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
And the solution is we pick up and call our mentor or the man that we're close to that, hey, I need to run something by you. I'm stuck. I'm thinking this and that. And because we pray for help, right? And God says, okay, I'll answer your prayers, call Hoff, call M2, and God will speak through that person and tell you exactly what you need to hear,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Because every time I call, my mentor, I've never felt worse after I hung up. Never. And you know what? He never shames me. He never belittles me, you know? That's God speaking through him,
Yeah.
you know? And I
Yeah.
lean on Hoff. I call Hoff, hey man, in our world of speaking and traveling, all that stuff, I'll bounce stuff off of him. You know what I mean? And he's cool.
Yeah.
He's sure, some guys that are ego and pride and they make it all about them, that they want to be the next big deal. Um, they won't share their secrets because they don't want anybody to get bigger than them, right? That ain't Hoff.
Yeah.
And I know that,
Yeah.
and he'll say, bro, this is what you do.
Yeah.
He says, get out here. He's funny. He says, listen, he goes, I'm gonna make all the money I can before you get out here because your story's way better than mine. Like, come on. And so here I was in fear, and we end up laughing and talking. So that's
Yeah.
the solution.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those situations recently. A lady who's her podcast will be dropping before this episode comes out, and she's like, "Hey, can I ask you, your YouTube, this and that?" I'm like, "Yeah, what do you want to know?" And she's like, "Well, I don't have any money." I'm like, "What do you want to know?" And so she had, and she's like, "Thank you," and oh my God, and some people, it's a competition. I'm like, it's rising tide raises all boats. Like I had this guy today, and I can't, like, before we got on, I was in tears. He's sitting there telling me his story of 40 years of addiction, and catching an episode that we had with Kelly Osbourne, and then another one and another one, and how much just that helped him, and then you know reaching out, finally getting involved in community and his church and all these things. It's like, that's what I do it for. That's what I do it
That's when we
for.
know we're doing it right. That's when we know we're doing it God's way.
Yeah. Like, I'm not
When we get those
competing
phone calls.
against anybody. I'm here trying to serve with the time that I don't know that I have left. I don't know how many pebbles of sand are left in that hourglass.
Yeah. Everything at M to the Rock, everything that you've seen at M to the Rock, they've called me. They've called me because literally, and I did this before I got into recovery, my home building business, a very successful luxury home builder as the world sees it. But we did good, served the customers, and it was always about attraction, not promotion.
Right.
That's what I still do here. It's about attraction, not promotion. That's why I texted you before, say, hey, man, do you think we can just do this? I'm so tired of telling my story. I'm sick of myself. I hate talking about me. I hate
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but also there is a time where I share, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. And your audience, if they're watching it, man, just jump over and it's all there. I'm not unique. A lot of people say, man, that's a crazy story. It's a freaking Forrest Gump story. I'm not unique. We all have a story. Every one of us. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely.
And we can't wait to have you on our show.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. And I would like to do this again because you did bring up, traumas that you underwent, as two men, and I'm glad there's other men such as yourself to talk about. Yes, I underwent sexual trauma as a child because it's such a huge. I did some sex and love addiction anonymous meetings, and if there was 10 guys in the room, 9 of us went through that, and
Yeah.
that shame was such a huge part of our
Yeah.
using of whatever kind,
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you brought
thank
that
you.
up. We need to stop focusing on addiction and we need to focus on why the addiction.
Yeah.
Okay. I was reaching out for visible things. Okay. Because I was trying to ease the pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And I was willing to go to any length to find anything to ease the pain and suffering. Michael, how'd you get through your trauma? Well, the first thing with Dr. Rob Kelly is I had to learn how to love myself. I put so much energy into loving other people, okay? Because service work can be an addiction. The person is busy, 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 just can't sit down, okay? That can be an addiction because they don't want to sit down to be still looking at themselves, right? But once I forgave myself and truly loved myself and forgave myself, okay, the suffering stopped. The suffering stopped. And as a kid, in a family that was abusive, and I knew my mom was struggling with depression and addiction, and my dad was worried about her, and he was a very successful businessman. He was a workaholic, never around, and looking at it through a different perspective, like he probably felt guilty. The noise was in his head. Man, I got to work and provide, but I'm not spending time with my kids. And I started looking at it that way. So I was always funny and joking and all this stuff, trying to make my mom laugh because I was trying to remove her suffering. I was trying to remove her suffering. And I didn't recognize that until just about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize it writing this book. Okay. Because, the book changed. It was another awakening for me, because I saw the opportunity. I saw there was unresolved trauma, and I got excited because I got, okay, cool. I'm going to learn about this so I can talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
And so when I talk about it, I'm like going, dude, I just saw this great movie. I want to tell you about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's me kicking my own butt. I
Yeah.
can't wait to tell you the breakthrough.
Boy, we're gonna have another talk. You know, we're not on here,
Anytime.
but you and I think got a lot. Boy, we'd be like, did we grow up like the same? Yeah. Anyways, all
Yeah.
right, here we go. Fun random questions. These are just
Okay.
for good times.
Come on.
Speaking of book, movie, is there a book you've read recently, or a TV show or movie that you've watched and had a big takeaway from it that you would share?
Yeah. Well, a book that I read, um, I just I'm in the middle of a book I'm enjoying. She was a guest on my show, Brooke Martin,
Okay.
called Controlled Burn. Check that out. And it's funny because she reached out. She's with Fox News Indianapolis, and she reached out and messaged on Instagram. I just happened to see it. We get tons of messages, right? And it's like, and I saw it, and she says, your story really inspired me. I saw your I Am Second film, and I was writing my own book, and I was stuck. And after I watched it, it just opened up. I just got a whole new perspective, and I just started writing. And I finished this book, and she's an Emmy Award news anchor, and all that. And I'll send you the link to the show.
Yeah.
And so she shared this, right? Um, and then I hear her other stuff. I saw her on Instagram doing stuff, and she's talking about M2 and how this film and how it changed and all this stuff, and it helped her write the book. I didn't realize it until she sent me the book. On page 72, she's literally writing about me because she saw the film. It changed life. It's not about me going back to touching people's
Yeah.
lives. I'm like, golly, I'm a freaking nobody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm enjoying that book. The book Detours by Dr. Tony Evans. I love it. That's the book that I was reading to people in prison. Um, I just got done watching Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland on
I haven't-
Netflix. Yeah, he's the he becomes president.
Oh.
The whole White House gets blown up during the State of the Union address, and everybody's blown away. And so he's the designated survivor. So he comes in as a president. And he's a true independent. It was really cool. And my takeaway from it is I loved how he handled challenges, and I loved how he didn't think on his feet. You know what I mean? It was just really solid. So I just recently watched that,
I'll have
and
to check it out.
yeah, it's really good. I enjoyed it. So,
Yeah. Do you have a hobby or interest that you don't talk about a lot or at all that people might be surprised to learn?
you know, what show was I on? It was been a minute, and it concerned me because I couldn't answer the question. And you just said it again. So maybe this is God speaking through you. I don't.
Huh.
I love what I do.
Yeah.
I really do love what I do. Lee says all the time, she goes, if people really knew what you did behind closed doors, if they really could see what you do all day long, and the text messages and people, saying, hey, I got M2's number, let me connect you with him. And she listens to it. You know, if for some reason someone refers a woman to him, I literally tell them, I said, sorry, I got to put you on speaker, Lee, in the room. That's just the way I operate. That's my boundary. And they accept it. And I steer them, get them to a safe place with a woman, immediately. So that's my hobby. I I really just love being still.
Mm.
I do. I love being still. I love Sundays. I love my Cowboys. I love my favorite sport is NASCAR. I love racing. I love Sundays and watching. And what's so cool, this is so dope, is that Lee watches it with me.
Oh, right on.
And golf. I love golf. And so she said, and she never did before, but she's like, I mean, she's gone to the Daytona 500 with me and loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and she's not doing it I'm going to do it just to support him. She's doing it the first time she did, but she was really open-minded, and I'm educating her how it works. Now she's into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she watches golf and says, it's going to break left. And, I'm like, you're right. So, but that's my hobby. I enjoy that. I love serving her.
Right on. Now, yeah, boy, you and I are gonna get along. I grew up in a motorsports family, and I'm a little bummed because it was on my list to finally make the Formula One race in Austin, which is, as of this recording, would already be done. But yeah, Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, drag racing. My dad and brother were both pretty good. My nephews raced outlaw go-karts forever. As a matter of fact, my brother worked for the company that built them, and the gentleman that owns it was married to Kelly Earnhardt at one time. And
Oh yeah.
so, it's like, oh yeah,
We
yeah,
grew up in the racing world. My youngest son was one of the top motocross racers in the country at the
nice.
age of 10. And then Hoff, we talk about that. I'm putting Hoff needs to write me a check. I'm putting him on blast and too much on this show, but his story, BMX. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, tuned into that. So, speaking of that, in Dallas, they just, Jerry Jones just signed a deal. Their Formula One's they got the track around the stadium, AT&T. So it's going to be in Dallas or here at Texas Stadium next year.
Oh wow, holy heck, that's insane.
Yep.
Wow,
It was a week ago. They just went public.
wow, I didn't see that yet. That'll be
Yeah.
awesome. Now I got extra reasons to visit you, huh?
You can stay with us. Come on, man.
There you go. All right,
Yeah.
we'll do a couple more. If you could have dinner with any one person, living or not, who would they be?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what I would ask them? I
Hmm.
say, hey man, I gotta see it. I gotta see you walk on water. I gotta see it. You know what I mean? I gotta see it. Not that I don't believe it. I just want to see it live. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, he is. And you know what? I think I believe there's some atheists and agnostics who'll probably say the same thing. You know what I mean? There's more books written about him than anybody else. There's more songs written about him than anybody else. Okay. Um, it's the most celebrated holiday in the world. Okay. Even people who don't believe in him celebrate that day. They shut down that day and buy presents. Um, and what's so great about his leadership qualities, he used uneducated, unqualified people to do his job.
Yeah.
Uneducated, unqualified people to do his job. An uneducated murderer saved my life in prison by asking me to read to him.
Wow.
We don't know who we're dealing with up there. And when we truly forgive and we remove these resentments, you know what we do? We give God permission to show us grace, and he performs the supernatural suddenly.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
I got the chills.
Hmm.
And I got into a discussion with someone about that once, and I said, take a look at all the world leaders of all time. What did they lead with? Fear and threats and all these other things. And I said, but there's one guy that, how long has he been gone? And yet that message of love and not looking down, like you said, on the uneducated and the unqualified, and it still reigns true.
Yep.
And it's the ultimate wisdom.
We've gotten away from the rule book. See, during a football, and I hate to go along, but on a football field, okay, you have two teams competing against each other. Mayhem, chaos. The referees are there to manage it, to enforce the rules from the rule book. Okay? They do that. They get booed, they get cheered, they don't care. These are guys that are 3 times their size, and they respect them and mind them. All right. The ref, if he gets away from the NFL rule book, there's chaos, right? There'll be mayhem. Our government, all this stuff, we've gotten away from the book, right? And so, wow, I've never talked about this stuff, but it's real simple. I get asked questions about the politic deal. I stay away from all of that. You know what I mean? But it's real simple. I stand behind people who have they put godly principles before politics. It's that simple. You know what I mean? And so that's what I do.
Yep. I agree. Michael, this happened when it was supposed to happen, and I'm grateful for it.
You're awesome, dude. I really, really like this and support you. And y'all get ready because he's coming on into the rock show very soon. So it's great.
Hey, we aren't going to stop there. There's going to be more we're going to do together than just a couple.
Oh,
of
heck
these
yeah.
podcasts.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Any last words you would like to lend?
Man, I'm just grateful to be on here, and you got a good spirit. I feel it through here, and you're in solution, and thank you so much for for having me on. And if anybody's struggling out there watching this, and you're just too much fear to reaching out and asking for help. We always hear about that, and that counts. All right. But literally just talk to yourself and say, man, I don't know make this be your prayer. Even if you don't believe in God or that, you just say it out loud to something beside yourself. I don't know why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Help me. That's it. And say amen. That's like pushing the send button for an email. You know what I mean? So that's my suggestion. But Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you, good sir. And on that note, remember, no outside solutions to inside problems, and keep knocking doors down.